So YK is a senior developer advocate at SourceGraph. He's also the creator of an open source coding assistant with over 1,200 stars on GitHub. Founder of CS Dojo, a programming education channel on YouTube with almost 2 million subscribers, which I've watched a lot of your videos, and you helped me get a job, so thanks, YK. All right, please give it up for YK.
I'll set up the slides, and while we wait, I think we have about 10 minutes, or at least I want to try to wrap up everything max 10 minutes, because I know it's been a long night, and I know you guys probably you guys are pretty tired at this point, but I'm gonna try to keep it short. My content is actually much shorter than that, so I think we can do like a few questions potentially, then do the main content, and then wrap up with a few questions. How does that sound to everyone? Perfect. And thank you so much for the introduction, Bibi. Really appreciate it. I wanted to introduce myself as a JavaScript developer. That is what I am, as well as a TypeScript developer. Who here is a JavaScript developer? And who here is a TypeScript developer? I guess it's at this point, kind of the same thing. So I've been using these languages as well as a few other languages for about like 10 years at this point. And I wanted to talk about this topic: 5 scary things about AI for coding. Ooh, scary. So I do have 5 points here, but one point was already raised, during this tonight's discussion. That is your job security. Like, is it going to replace us? And that one I didn't include it, so I figured I can quickly cover it and then go into the main talk. So, will AI replace software engineers? Maybe, right? Like in 30 years, who knows? But in like 3, 4, 5 years, I don't see it happening, to be honest. Like, if you see the capability of the current, latest models like OpenAI O1 and Anthropic, Claude 3.5 Sonnet latest, you might have heard about some of these, you might have used some of these. They're not quite there yet. They're pretty good at like replacing some of the tasks that you might take, and they might be able to like complete really simple issues. I saw this recent piece of data that the latest model was able to solve about 50% of real-world software engineering issues on GitHub on Python projects. So I see someone nodding, and that's pretty good. Like, if it's able to solve like 50% of issues, that's pretty good. But that doesn't mean it was high-quality code. It just means that it was able to pass the test, and it also doesn't mean that it was able to solve the hardest tasks. So I personally wouldn't worry about your job security too much. I actually even talked about it recently in a podcast episode, so feel free to look it up. Just go to Free Code Camp's YouTube channel. Who here is familiar with Free Code Camp? Some of you, yeah. So feel free to go to their YouTube channel, and I have like a 1.5 minute, or 1.5 hour interview there on that topic alone. But we have 5 other scary things about AI for coding, and I think everything's being recorded. Maybe if you could like take pictures while I'm speaking, I would appreciate that. Thanks. So I think I'll just pretend I'm starting now. So, okay, sure. Here, perfect. Hey everyone, my name is YK. I'm a JavaScript developer as well as a TypeScript developer and a few other languages. And today I'm here to talk about 5 scary things about AI for coding. Happy Halloween, everyone. So number 1, as a beginner, you might be afraid that it prevents you from learning certain concepts that you should know about, that you should learn. And this is a legitimate concern, both from the perspective of a teacher as well as a trainer and a learner. And this reminds me of the calculator. And I actually used to be a math tutor a long time ago. And some people I noticed were really reliant on the calculator, and they didn't even develop the ability to do simple computations. And that's a huge problem. And that could be a problem here. But the big difference between the calculator and these AI tools, large language models, LLMs, is that you can ask them follow-up questions. So if you ask them, for a piece of code, if you don't understand it, you can ask, what does this piece of code mean? Can you modify it a little bit? Can you explain every single line of code? If you still don't understand it, you can say, I don't understand this word, I don't understand these phrases, I don't understand these sentences. So that way you can use it as a teaching tool and an assistant tool, and that's how I would use it, especially as a beginner. Because if you use it just as a magic black box that you can get anything out of it, copy and paste, then you might not be able to learn important skills. And both as a beginner and as an experienced software engineer, you might say, okay, there's a chance that you might develop over-reliance on these tools, and this is also true. The way I think it's okay to rely on these tools to some extent. Not all the time, not for everything, but if you think about the way people coded before Google, and if you think about the way people coded before Stack Overflow, and with the introduction of these tools, the way we coded has changed a lot over the, let's say, past decades. And same thing with AI. The way we code is changing, and it will continue to change, and that's okay. That's just a new reality. But at the same time, I'd be mindful about copying and pasting without knowing what you're doing. Sometimes it's okay if it's like a small project, if it's like online chess or whatever. But but if it's a real production code base that you need to maintain as a professional software engineer, I wouldn't do it. I would kind of be careful about what you're copying and pasting exactly. Number 3 is that you may leak your proprietary code or other sensitive information. For this, I would learn a little bit about the policy of the particular AI tool that you're using. So for example, with ChatGPT, they have the right, legally speaking, to use the conversation that you have with ChatGPT as part of their training data. You might not want that necessarily. They also have this, like private mode or something like that, where they say they don't use your data as part of their training data, but they still retain your data for 30 days. So you want to, be familiar with these different, privacy policies and look into them a little bit, and also make sure not to send the most sensitive information, API keys, personal information, people's addresses, phone numbers, stuff like that. Number 4, this is the most serious one in my opinion, and this is the most common one. It's that you ship low quality code. You might say, okay, that's not me, but in general, I have seen it in an actual production code, unfortunately, and this is not good. The way I see it is you can't blame AI for the low quality code that you ship. It's sort of like a writer saying, oh, I can't write well because my keyboard doesn't work that well. It's easy to blame a tool for low quality work that you ship, but in my opinion, it's your responsibility to make sure that every single line of code that you ship is high quality, up to standard. As a leader or as a manager, I'm not sure how much management we have here, but as a leader of an organization, it's easy to prioritize speed over quality of your code, and that could work. If you prioritize basically time to market, you want to ship as fast as possible, you can ship in 5 days, whatever. But over time, if you keep doing that, you're gonna accumulate more and more tech debt, and that's gonna slow down your team. So as a leader, definitely don't do that. I'd be careful about that. As an individual software engineer, like I've said before AI was introduced, make sure to leave the code base you touch in a better shape than when you found it. And then lastly, as an engineering team, code reviews, PR reviews were important before AI, but it's even more important now with AI. The last one is you will get sued for your code. If AI generates code that was part of an open source repo, you didn't attribute it correctly, or you didn't know too much about the particular license, the particular license was not something you could use for copy and pasting, and you could potentially get sued, right? This is a potential concern. I think most of the time it is overblown, but for this, I would check the legality of the AI dev tool that you use, does it have any sort of legal protection? Also, does it have any tool that automates this process of checking, if the generated code was part of an open source repo? And I'm going to close this talk by saying that one such tool that has an ability to automatically check if generated code was part of an open source repo is one that I've been working on for the past several months as part of a team. It's a big team, but I joined the team several months ago. It's called Cody. It's on the left. And we also have an event coming up. If you're looking for mentors or if you're looking to be a mentor, feel free to check that. It's going to be a good event for that. There's a discount code there. Bibi has, also signed up. I'm not sure if Bibi's going to show up as Pikachu, but she'll be there.
Yeah, I will.
Great. No. All right. Thank you so much.
Questions from White Kid?
Go ahead.
Okay, generating credit apps is fun, but is
Sorry, my brain's not working anymore, guys.
Me neither. Okay, so generating CRUD apps is fun, and LLMs are really good at that. But the kind of real cool frontier that I think we're all hoping for is that, an AI that's smarter than the stuff it got trained on. And let's face it, most of these AIs got trained on Reddit. A bad idea. But when are we going to see the AGI ideas or curing cancer, fusion? When's it going to be that GIF of the future that's awesome? Just your guess. I know it's a hard question.
Yeah, okay, so the real answer is no one knows, right?
Yeah.
When are we going to have AGI? Like, what's the AGI anyway?
yeah.
So, and I think, the way the current AI models are trained and architected, it's not designed to be innovative. Like, it is designed to statistically assess, like, what's most likely after, these bunch of words. So it is able to kind of fetch existing information. It's pretty good at that. It is able to kind of somewhat combine two pieces of information. It is somewhat good at that, but beyond that, I don't think it's quite ready yet. But what I'm excited for the future of AI is how the current kind of state-of-art models are going to be used in a variety of ways. Like now it's just about like autocomplete chat. It's cute, but I think there are a lot of kind of boring parts of software engineering that people don't want to do. Like reading documentation, reading errors. Like now you need to like copy and paste everything into ChatGPT. It's annoying. I think all of that is going to be automated away. Not all of it, but maybe like half of it.
So I have a question that all of these code assistants are good at, you can add context like code, files, documentation. But how do they get good at understanding the architecture of your code base? Like if you are asking for generating a new code, how do they understand, I'm not asking to like be intelligent to create new architecture, but at least they should be able to understand that if you are going to create a new component, where it should reside or what is the best place, etc.
Right. So I think it is going to be a combination of a few things. One is you could potentially feed the entire code, into an AI model. For example, Gemini 1.5 Pro has 2 million context, 2 million token context. That might not be like good enough for an entire repo, let's say, but it might be good enough for like 10% of the repo that you're looking at. So that's one way to do it. And another one is like the system around whatever AI model that you choose to use. Let's say you choose to use Cloud 3.5 Sonnet. Then the question is, okay, do we have a system that feeds it a file tree? Do we have a system that finds the right references? Is it able to kind of look at the code graph and is able to fetch the right parts of the code base that way based on your question? These questions are not solved questions yet. I think they're going to be solved over the next few years, next 5 years, something like that.
One more question?
So like, so I just want to share one more scary thing which I feel like is. So I think about like how responsible this AI is. Like, are we developing too fast? And what would how could it change the future? Like, what are your thoughts on that?
The question is, are we developing AI too fast?
Yeah, like, are we developing it responsibly, and like questions like that? Where will this go? And this, go in the wrong direction?
Right. So just to make sure I understand the question correctly, are we developing AI responsibly? I think we are so far. It's hard to say, like, with, let's say GPT-6 comes out, GPT-7, what is it going to be capable of? But so far, like I said earlier, it's not, truly innovative. If you like ask it to come up with an innovative, let's say, story, it can't. Like it comes up with what it thinks, what it sounds like. What it thinks sounds like an innovative story, but it's not quite innovative. It is able to kind of replace certain parts of the labor market. I think the junior developer market it is getting hit pretty hard. To be honest, like it's not being replaced, but I think some software engineering teams will say, okay, why do we need 3 junior engineers when we can have like 2 and then do the rest with AI, stuff like that. But are we being responsible? I think we are, because these AI systems are not able to hack into military systems, stuff like that. They're not so advanced. Sorry, I think you had a few other questions there somewhere. Yeah. Okay. One more?
Yeah, one question. Did you say that it's not safe to provide AI with sensitive information? Or can I provide sensitive information to AI?
So the way I see it is, would you send sensitive information via email? I wouldn't. Like, API, like stuff like API keys, if you want to send it, you send it through a secure method. I see AI the same way. You can say, okay, we have these cloud systems, we have sensitive information in these databases anyway, so what's the difference? But the difference is these are less mature systems, and they do retain data for 30 days. So compared to let's say, local Postgres database, let's say, these systems are less secure. So I wouldn't say these are it's completely dangerous. Like, if you send an API key to ChatGPT, I don't think it's gonna be the end of the world. You just need to refresh it. But I would be careful. Basically as careful as whatever you send via email.